Hi everyone, welcome back. I am Just Shiny and today we're going to be watching Audacity TikTok Ghost Story Stitches. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like, and ring that bell so you'll be notified every time I post a video. Let's get into it.
If you scare easily, go ahead and exit right now. When my grandmother was in hospice, she hospiced under the care of my mom and my aunt in this home. As it got closer to the end, my grandma would kind of swat and be like, "Do you see them? Do you see them? They're just flying all around me. They're flying all around me." She would also say that she sees a man in the corner. One day my mother was in the bathroom doing her hair and my aunt was going to the store. While my mom was in the bathroom doing her hair, she felt a huge gust of wind, as if like somebody was like walking by and walking through our hallway, and they're walking fast and like with a purpose, like startled my mom. Then she peeked outside the door and she's calling for my aunt. She's like, "Pat, is that you?" And it wasn't my aunt. And then it happened again and she sees somebody like walking by and my mom was like, what the heck is going on? My mom just gets this really weird feeling and she goes into my grandma's room and she's like, "Hey mom, are you okay?" And my grandma was like, "Did you see him?" And my mom was like, "Yeah mom, I saw him." She starts speaking to it, starts saying, "Hey, I think I know who you are. We're not ready for her to go." And my mom said that it was a cloaked figure, like a pale cloaked figure with like a button up shirt with a high collar, like ruffled high collar up to here, ruffles on the sleeves, and like a hat that Abraham Lincoln used to wear, like a top hat. Like a few days passed. My grandma is watching Judge Judy because that's what my grandma loved, Judge Judy. And my mom is in there and Judge Judy had just gone off and my mom goes in there and she's like, "Hey mommy." Asked my grandma if she wants to watch the Today Show now because Gladys Knight and the Pips are going to be performing. And my mom has her back turned to my grandma and my grandma's back here laying down. And my mom says, she's like, "Hey mom, do you want to watch the Today Show? Gladys Knight and the Pips are on." And my grandma said, "No, he's here." And my mom says, "Who's here, mom?" And when my mom turned around, my grandma had passed. Like my grandma was dead. She was gone. She said, "No, he's here." And she was gone. It was the angel of death. Angel of death came and took her soul. Yeah, he's here. Yeah.
Girl, that that hit, I'm so sorry for your loss. Like, oh man, the fact that she knew that was her time. Oh, I just can't. Whew, you about to have me in tears. That is so. Oh, I can't imagine being in her mom's shoes, like seeing. Well, I guess it's better to know before it happens. I guess so you can get in all your I love yous and all your time together and everything. But man, like, do people experience that? Like when they're on their deathbed, do they experience the death angel? Like, man, being that I grew up in a Christian family, and almost everybody in my family is a pastor or a reverend or a minister. I heard about the story about the lamb blood and putting it on the door, and for forever I always wanted to do that. I always wanted to mark the door so the death angel would just pass on by. I wanted to mark all of my family's doors just so it would pass on by, because when I was younger I was just afraid of death. I didn't want to lose people and I didn't want to die, because I lost somebody really close to me at a young age, and it was just like I never wanted to experience that again, and I never want my family to experience that hurt of losing. So honey, I know that was a lot for your family, and I know it still touches you, girl. I'm just gonna pray for your family, because man, that whew, I can't even imagine that.
When I was 3 years old, my family and I moved out of a small apartment complex and into a big house. And during the viewing process of this house, my 3 older siblings and my mother went to go meet with the realtor to go check it out. Everything was going fine. They were mostly upstairs, and they loved everything so far, and then they reached the basement. When my family went into the basement, they saw dried droplets of blood splattered on the floor and on the walls. They found bird feathers, and then they saw a satanic symbol drawn on the wall. Now, the previous owners of this house belonged to a mother and her son, and according to this woman, she mostly lived upstairs. She let her son live in the basement. She said she kind of just let him do his own thing, left him alone because he was an adult. I am the youngest of 4 children, and my siblings are significantly older than I am. So, naturally, being the only child in the house, the spirits really took a liking to me. When I was very young, it started off with just I'd be walking through the house and I would hear low pitched growling coming from behind closed doors, closet doors. I distinctly remember this one time walking past the closet door in the basement, and I put my ear to the door to make sure that I was hearing what I thought I was hearing. And I was. And so I ran upstairs. I grabbed my mom. I was like, you need to go and open the door because there's something in there. And so she opens the door and there's nothing in there. By the time I was age 10, it was no longer just low growling coming from behind closed doors, but it had also become banging on walls, things coming off of the walls. And I remember this one time I was home alone and I was upstairs, and there was just ruckus coming from the basement. It sounded like something was pounding on the wall. It sounded like something had flung off the wall and broke. And I was petrified, and I believed that someone had broken into my house because that's how bad it was. So I ran over to my neighbor's house and I was like, you need to come inside. You need to check to see if someone broke into my house because I think someone did. He goes inside. He goes in the basement. No one's there. And the older I got, the worse it became. So by the age of 13, it was no longer just hearing things, but I was also physically seeing figures in my home. When I was 13, the paranormal activity got increasingly bad, and it was so bad to the point where it was disrupting my sleep. Every single night I was woken up at 3 a.m. on the dot. At first it was just my TV would be turned on, or I'd hear like really creepy noises coming from my closet or like a dark corner. But then I finally saw it. Now, the way that my room was set up was I had a room upstairs, and my room was at the very end of this long, narrow hallway. And when I was laying down on my pillow in my bed, and my door was open, I could see directly down the hallway. So when I would be woken up at 3 in the morning, I'd open my eyes, and I slept with my door open because I was so fucking scared. And when I would look down the hallway, I saw this very tall, dark figure. It was all black. Couldn't see its face, but I knew it was a man. I just knew. This figure, every single night, he would be standing at the end of the hallway, and he would walk slowly down the hallway into my room and stand at the foot of my bed and just try to intimidate me. My sleep had become so bad, and my mom didn't believe that I was seeing the figures that I was seeing, so she took me to a neurologist. She took me to several sleep studies, several sleep doctors, and of course, they all ran tests on me. The doctors could never come up with anything because my brain activity was normal, so they just conjured it up to me being a child, and it was just my imagination. It was all in my head. When I reached high school, most of my siblings had moved out of the house, and so I ended up taking my older sister's bedroom that was in the basement, which was very brave of me. But at this point in time is when the paranormal activity, it gets spicy. I would still be woken up at 3, 4 in the morning, but this time with physical pain. I would wake up with bruises on my body. I'd wake up with scratches on my body in threes. And one time it was so bad that I woke up from being choked. I would hear tapping on the walls, banging on the walls. I'd hear scratches. I would hear creepy ass growls, noises. And I also would often smell rotten eggs. At this point, I figured that whatever was haunting me was still the same entity that it was upstairs, the man I was talking about, but no. This time it was a woman because they took different shifts apparently. I don't fucking know. One of the very first times I had ever seen her, I was having a sleepover with my friends and I was woken up in the middle of the night. Classic. And she was standing in the corner of my bedroom, and she was just standing there staring down at me. She had a long, tattered dress. Her limbs were all decrepit and broken, and her hair was long and ratty and dark, and I could not see her face. At this point in time, I had grown so accustomed to this shit that I just didn't care anymore. Like, it was a part of my life and it didn't scare me. I remember waking up, looking at her, and being like, I'm going back to sleep. To reiterate, I never really spoke about this with my siblings. Again, my mom didn't believe me, and I had already grown indifferent to it, so it was just kind of whatever. But there was this one night. My brother was still living in the house, and he was the only sibling of mine living in the home. And it was Black Friday. I think I had to be like 18, I think, and I was at the mall with my friends. It was around 2 something in the morning, and I get a call from him. And he's like, you need to come home right now. I am not going back into the house until you get here. This really freaked me out because my brother has had several experiences with like paranormal shit, and he's never been scared before. So I rush home, and he's standing outside, he's pacing, and I'm like, what happened? And he's like, I can't talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I was like, okay, let's just go in the house together. So we go in the house, we go up the stairs, and we're in the kitchen. And at this point, like, I'm just trying to ground him, so we're just talking about like random things, you know. But finally, we decide that we're gonna go back downstairs into the basement into his room. But in order to do that, we have to pass that long, narrow hallway. And my family was sleeping, so all the lights were off. As we're passing the hallway, I hear a very low-pitched growl coming from the end of the hallway. I didn't say anything to my brother. I didn't look at him. I didn't act different. We get downstairs and we get into his room, and he looks at me and he says, did you hear that? This was like the ultimate confirmation for me. Like, everything that I had been told regarding like it's all in your head, like it's not true, you're just a kid, whatever. It was finally confirmed that no, this was a real fucking experience. Finally, he tells me why he wouldn't go back in the house, like what scared him. And he told me that he was going out for a cigarette, and before he went out the front door, he had a really horrible feeling. He turned around, he looked up the stairs, and it was that woman that I had seen previously. He described her wearing the same thing, he described her looking the same, and he said that she was just standing at the top of the stairs, staring down at him, just trying to scare him. As the years passed, my brother and I finally, eventually, got them out of our house. It took a lot of time and intention, but we did it. After that, like, the paranormal activity was not as heavy or dense. I mean, things would move on their own and stuff like that, but it was not at all what it was before. When I was 23, my mom sold the house, and so I moved out. The very night that I moved out and into the new place, I had a dream of the 3 entities, demons that were haunting me, and finally they showed me their faces, and they were essentially like, goodbye, like, this is it, you've been released.
I don't know if it was lagging on y'all's end, like it was lagging on my end. It's the TikToks. Lately, these TikToks, they've been lagging. I don't know what that's about. Maybe TikTok. I don't know. TikTok need to act right, because we only what. Hopefully, it don't go away. But if we do, we need some good memories, good experiences, friend. Your whole life you grew up with these spirits, and then they was like, okay, finally, okay, bye, bitch, bye. Like, no. That was not okay. That was not cool. You a brave one. You a brave one, friend. You gonna move down to the basement. You gonna watch this thing walk to you instead of your bed, bruh. And it happened. It reoccurred. It happened many times. So, friend, you built different. I am not built like that. Like, nope. Like, I would have been doing everything I needed to do. I would not be living there. I would not. I don't know where I would go, but I would not be there. Like, And your family, like, okay, so your brother went through it, like he had paranormal experiences, but did he have it at y'all's house? Because it seemed like that Like, freaked him out seeing it at y'all's house. Cause you said, "Oh, I'm used to seeing this woman. I'm gonna go back to sleep." Shoot, okay, you can be over there look scared if you want to, but I'm gonna get some Z's. Like, you ain't disturbing my beauty sleep just because you looking like you looking, honey. Did your parents, your other siblings, before they moved out, did they experience this? Like, you was just the only one that was targeting you, maybe because you was a baby coming into the house, maybe innocent soul. I don't know, friend. I don't know, but I don't like it. I'm glad that your parents sold the house and y'all are up out of there. And then it didn't follow you. They were just like, "All right, peace." Ooh, girl, built different.
I witnessed a murder in Hot Springs in July 2022. Now, Ashley, how did you witness a murder if this is about ghost stories? Well, I am so glad you asked. There's an abandoned building. It is an old Army Navy hospital. I think it was the first hospital, general hospital, that served both the Army and the Navy in the country. It is in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And then in 1960, it was turned into a rehabilitation facility. So, I don't even, like, this story gets me every time. Like, I'm so overwhelmed right now. However, I really want to tell you guys. So me and my best friend went to Hot Springs for a girls' weekend back in July of 2022. We were writing a book, and this was our book launch weekend where we were going to brainstorm, make plans, make the outline, etc., all the things. Well, we decided to take a break and go explore Hot Springs a little bit. Neither of us had been there. She's from out of state, and I had never been there. We go to this hospital. Now, this hospital is right downtown. The main street is dubbed Bathhouse Row. So that's like the cute little main street in Hot Springs, like your typical, touristy area. And there's a couple bathhouses that are still functioning today. Now, we go up to this building and suddenly I get this severe pain in my whole midsection from my chest through to my back. So I turn to her and I say, "I don't want to go any further. This hurts. I don't feel like something's wrong." And we decided to go down the hill, walk away from the hospital, and explore Bathhouse Row a little bit. So we're walking down. It is dusk. And I turn and look over my right shoulder. And when I tell you I saw someone being pushed from that balcony, I did a freaking double take. It was the craziest, most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my life. And she saw me see it. The blood drained from my face. And she stopped and looked at me and she was like, "What did you just see?" And I just looked at her and I couldn't really speak at first. And I just said, "I just saw someone being pushed." And she looks at me and I'm just like trying to breathe. Like, I'm kind of panicking a little bit. I was like, was that real? Was that a spirit? Did I just witness a quote unquote real murder? Like, what did I just see? And she turns and looks at me and she goes, "Ashley, the pain that you're feeling, the pain that you've been feeling, that spirit was trying to get your attention. That's the impact pain." When she said that, I felt like I could vomit. That was the first time I'd ever experienced a spirit letting me feel how they died. Now, I've experienced it a lot since then, but that was the first time. It was very overwhelming. That being said, we go down to Bathhouse Row and we're walking and we suddenly hear this noise and we look up and there are tens of thousands of bats circling above our heads. I have footage. I'm going to add that at the end. I've never released this footage. I've never posted anywhere. It has just really rocked my world. And me and her just looked at each other and we were like, who the fuck is doing witchcraft around here? These bats were circling above us. And as we walked down Bathhouse Row, they were following us. If we stopped, they stopped. I still get chills thinking about it.
You got your book, boo. You got your book. If that was not terrifying, the sound of bats, like, I live in the country, so, you know, you see bats all the time, but not that many bats at one time. Not that many. New. What? That sound. Did it not just crawl up in you and just make you itch? It made me itch a little bit. I was like, I want to hear that. Let me mute that. Girl, that, whoa. Like the spirits that I think I was listening to a podcast about a story about that, how she could feel how the people died, and she felt it. Like she would be like, when she went to sleep, she would live through the person dying. If they were about to die, she would experience what they were experiencing. And I was just like, bruh, that's a lot. That is a lot. I couldn't even imagine. Friend, I'm glad you listened to your body. Your body was like, this is not a place to be. This is not it. My question, one of my first questions was the hospital abandoned or was it still in operation? Because if it was abandoned, we know how we feel about abandoned old places where people could have died. We do not visit those places. Like, no. But friend, I'm glad you listened to your body. That's crazy that was your first beginning of how you feel. Like you could feel other people's deaths, and now you feel it. It's just like, ooh, girl, I'm sorry. I mean, I wouldn't want that gift, but usually when you're given a gift, it's for a reason. And friend, you about to make bukus of money with your books, honey. So do you? And maybe it's because you're an author. Maybe that's the reason why they was like, well, shoot, she could tell my story. Let me contact her. Let me know. Let me help her feel this. Like, you got to feel me. Let me get her attention. So maybe that's the reason. Girl, work your magic. Do what you do. Help other people. Subscribe.